in old-world recipes, but by the 1970s, they had become a staple in many American kitchens. Large cabbage leaves were carefully steamed until tender, then stuffed with a savory mixture of ground beef and rice, seasoned with onion, garlic, and a touch of tomato sauce. Rolled into little parcels, they were neatly folded and coated in a sweet and sour tomato sauce that balanced the richness of the filling. They were baked until the rolls were soft, with the flavors melding together as they simmered in the sauce. A batch of cabbage rolls cost just 25 cents, the equivalent of $5.50 today. It was a dish that took a little time to prepare, but the results were worth it. A warm, filling meal that made for hearty dinners on a shoestring budget. Meat pies are a traditional comfort food that stretches a small amount of meat into a substantial and filling meal. Ground beef is sautéed with onions and mixed with potatoes and carrots, inexpensive and easy to store produce. The mixture is simply seasoned and placed in a pie crust, often homemade from flour, shortening, and water. The crust locks in all the flavor and creates an attractive presentation that makes the meal special and complete. The pie can be cut into small pieces for portion control, naturally aiding portion control. Back then, a whole meat pie that would feed 4 people cost about 35 cents, less than $7 in today's money. Families could prepare these pies in advance to make dinner planning more efficient during busy times. This dish is designed to create a special and attractive presentation for Sunday dinner, making it look like a holiday feast, even though the family budget is still tight. Simply sautéed ground beef with onions and seasoned with whatever is available. Sometimes cream of mushroom soup is added for extra richness, or a packet of onion soup mix for extra flavor. The twist is on frozen biscuit dough, which is arranged in a ring around the outside, then the beef mixture is spooned into the middle. When baked, the biscuits expand and turn golden brown, forming an impressive crown around the savory filling. Beef biscuit rings were a luxury treat that cost less than half a dollar back then, closer to $10 today. Kids enjoyed tearing off individual biscuits and dipping them in the beef mixture, making dinner interactive and fun. If you grew up with Grandma's beef rings and cookies, comment 9 to send some love back to the past with us. Your grandparents combined a Southern tradition with ground beef to stretch out ingredients and fill up stomachs. Spoon bread turned cheap cornmeal into something rich and comforting, almost like a cross between cornbread and pudding. The ground beef mixture was cooked simply, sautéed with onions and seasoned with salt, pepper, and maybe a little hot sauce. The beef was layered in a casserole dish and topped with a spoonful of breadcrumbs made from cornmeal, eggs, milk, and a little sugar. A box of cornmeal and some meat scraps cost 15 cents back in the day. But the beauty was in the way the 2 layers were cooked together, with a spoonful of bread absorbing just enough of the beef juices to keep them moist while creating a perfectly golden crust. Families would gather around the table and scoop portions straight from the casserole dish, feeling cared for no matter what was happening in the outside world. Named after Dr. James Salisbury, who believed in the health-giving power of beef, this recipe makes a pound of ground beef look and taste like expensive steaks. Just breadcrumbs, eggs, and a little milk transform ordinary ground beef into individual portions that look full on the plate. Hand-shaped into oval patties, they are pan-fried until golden brown, then covered in a rich brown gravy made from the pan's fat. Smart housewives would make extra patties and freeze them for quick meals later in the week. Poor man's steaks, once worth 10 cents a piece, are less than $2 today. Kids think they're having steak for dinner, but it's a working-class steak made with equal parts love and necessity. Meatballs were a staple, but when ground beef became extremely scarce, your grandmother resorted to using pasta to stretch the meat even further than traditional meatballs. This dish combines ground beef with cooked pasta, often leftover pasta from earlier in the week, to increase the fluffiness and overall volume of the dish. The pasta allows scarce beef to feed more people, making the meal more substantial than it looks. Back then, a pound of ground beef cost about 12, so a beef noodle soup was so cheap that a student could buy it with his pocket money. This is the smartest way to save money, proving that waste is never acceptable when every ingredient is important and valuable. Your grandparents used ingenuity to recreate the complex flavors of expensive Swiss steak with ordinary ground beef. The ground beef is formed into thick patties and rolled